Pacific time, 12 to 1 o'clock p.m. So that is 1 o'clock Mountain Time, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern Time. And if you're somewhere outside of the United States, please Google and find out what time 12 o'clock Pacific time is in your time zone. We are honored and excited to be able to offer this program to you as a resource. And we are a resource for a large community of amazing people who are interested in helping people with their health and doing it in a much more natural way. So folks, this program is not meant to take the place of your primary care physician, nor are the comments mentioned been diagnosed or whatever the FDA does with them by the FDA. But folks, we have found that through the science of epigenetics, which our leader is one of the founding fathers of the science of epigenetics, that the theory of disease transmission as being genetic is incorrect. And I love that for my personal self, because I thought there was many things that I was told were genetic that I would have to live with for the rest of my life. And that was absolutely incorrect. And today we have one of the gentlemen who has been with Dr. Wallach since 1989, working with him. And then in 1994, started a business with Steve Wallach, who we have had a few times here on our show, the CEO of Youngevity. But today we have a member of the scientific board from Youngevity who also has a degree, advanced degree rather, in sports medicine. And let's see, I'm trying to think of the word. Known as Dr. Dirt, we have with us the one and only Richard Renton. So Richard, welcome to Daily with Doc. I'm so excited to have you here with us today.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to answer people's questions and tell a little history about Youngevity. You know, it's been an exciting time, and it kind of teaches you, when you hear my story, it teaches you a little bit about never burning bridges.
Never burning bridges. That is something that a lot of people do, not thinking that they may have to circle back and make some great things happen.
So to give a little bit of history on me is that I have a postgraduate degree in nutrition, chemistry, and sports medicine, and I'm a board certified athletic trainer working for various teams like the Portland Trailblazers, the Portland Timbers, University of Oregon, and Portland State University. And one of the disappointments when I was working in that profession is that I quickly found out it wasn't my job to take care of the athletes. It was my job to get the athletes back on the field, court, or whatever pitch, whatever they were doing, whether it was the best decision for them medically for their bodies or not. And so that being said, I decided to go in a different route. Was searching around trying to figure out what it was. A guy came to me and say, "Do you want to start an aquarium store?" And this is back in '86 or '83, long time ago. And I said, sure. And I was the financing and he was the brains. And when we got close to opening, I realized he didn't have any brains. So in saying that, I did what I learned, and I went around to all the aquarium stores in the Portland metropolitan area looking for someone that had the knowledge, that was an employee. And I found this 18-year-old young brass kid that probably had more knowledge about animals than all the other owners combined. And so I went to him and I say, "Why don't you come work for me? I'll either pay you more or make you a partner." And that was Steve Wallach when he was 18 years old. And so at that particular time, I then met Doc. Doc had two practices. He had a practice in Portland, Oregon, and on weekends he would go down to Cannon Beach and he had a practice there. And believe it or not, he had an Amway business at that point. And so as times go, we kind of went in different directions. And then probably about 8 years later, he calls me up and says, "Michelle and I are just being worn out with my dad giving us this business. Do you think you have some time to help me organize it?" And this is before Youngevity was even Youngevity. And I said, sure, I'd be glad to help you. And we started a multi-level business. It was Eagle Ventures, which was Super Life, which is one of our product lines now. And we were doing very successful. In fact, Doc was making a huge paycheck. Let's see now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 digits in size monthly. And they decided they didn't need him and they fired him, even though he owned a third of the company. And so when they fired him, they fired Stephen Michelle and they fired myself. And we were there all of a sudden being used to making great money and had no money at all. And Doc said, I'm going to continue lecture. Steve, you come down to San Diego with Michelle and start up the company. And Richard, I want you to start developing these products. And he listed off the products that he kind of wanted me to work on. And that's how Youngevity started. And it took us 3 months to get all the paperwork done, all the multi-level figured out, all the products designed, who we're going to use to manufacture our products. As Doc continued to do his lecture saying, I don't have the products right now, but just fill out the form, we'll get it to you when we get it. And that's how it all started. And so it's been quite a ride ever since.
And you did all of that in 3 months?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's determination and that's stick-to-itiveness and making things happen. I love that. And folks, if you didn't catch a little bit of what Richard was saying, is he's very instrumental in the flagship products and the formulations, taking his experience in chemistry, in nutrition, sports nutrition, putting all of that together to create products that Dr. Wallach wanted to meet the body's needs. So Liz, can you tell us some of the first products that were part of and we still have?
So way back when, the first product was the plant-derived minerals, which makes sense. And originally with the other company, we were with a company called TRC that was manufacturing the products. And there's other ones out there. You're probably all familiar. You probably have all heard them. There's the Clark family, which has a couple different mines. And then there's the Great Salt Lakes and the trace minerals from the Great Salt Lakes. And there's some other corporations. And I went and Super Life didn't pay their bills. And therefore, that particular mine refused to sell to them anymore. But it was a superior product. And so when we sprung out on our own company, I went down and I met with the owners of that particular company and told them what our plan was and our action was and the financing backing that we had. And they agreed to sell to us in a way. And then during the course of the next 5 years, the people that were mining the products weren't the people who owned the company. And they actually took over the companies, the Taylors, and we've been working with them ever since. And so we came out with the 38,000 milligram solution that we dilute with water and then put in 1 quart bottles. And that's what you get with your plant-derived minerals. And if you do the math, it comes out to 600 milligrams of plant-derived minerals in each fluent ounce, which is about what the mineral caps are as well, which was one of the second products. I think the big reason why we were more interested in them than the other ones is that TRC or Live Earth Products is the only one certified organic of all of them. And that was important to us to have that certification. In fact, when Clark people want to send their stuff over to Australia, they send it in as fertilizer for animals. And then when they get it there, they rebottle it and repackage it for humans. And that's just to get around. It's kind of hard sometimes, for example, us getting our plant-derived minerals into Europe because they want to know what plants it's from. And since it's derived from humic shale, which is a form of folic acid, humic shale is like a very ancient compost pile. It's 1 million years old. And so we can't really identify every single plant that's in it. We can make some hypothetical theory, but Europe wants to have, if you think about it, the EU is controlled about German, and if you know much about Germans, they want to know exactly which plant it is. And so we have some challenges in those areas, which is one of the reasons why we're not as successful in Europe as we are in the United States. But we've never changed the vendor on the plant-derived minerals. We've always used them. They've always taken care of us. The product does vary in color a little bit because of the mining process. You know, it's basically an open pit mine. You can go to YouTube and you can go Youngevity Mineral Mine Tour, and you'll see me again, and you'll get to see what it actually looks like when we're mining the material and how they take care of it. But it's basically a open face of humic shale, and each inch, I should hold my finger this way, each inch is about 100 years worth of vegetation, all compressed down. And the wall itself, if you've been there, we've done some tours there. It's about what, 25, 30 feet tall. So that gives you how many years it is. And what it is that we don't go from top to bottom, which is what a lot of manufacturers do, because it's easy. You just take a backhoe and you dig it out and pour it in and whatnot. We actually scrape the face so that we get all 30 feet. And in doing that, over the years, our products have been very, very consistent, because some years have stronger and some nutrients, some years are weaker, but by taking the whole face rather than working top to bottom, we get a much more consistent product. And it's really unique. I have a chunk of humic shale on the other side of my desk, you know, and it basically looks like shale, but it's not really shale. And so when you say humic shale, people think rock, but it's not. What it is that there wasn't enough weight on top of this compost pile to turn it into coal. If it was a couple hundred feet more further down into the earth, it would be coal. If it was a couple thousand feet down and time was longer, it would be diamonds. And so you can think about it, you're just drinking young diamonds if you want to think about it that way. But it's a great source of plant-derived minerals. And everyone always asks, are we going to run out? It's probably never going to happen in my generation. It'll probably never happen in my kids' generation, maybe my grandkids. But Steve Wallach, who's always figuring out what we're going to do as plan B, COVID kind of taught us that, has already got a second source all lined up when that day comes, so that we can take advantage of it. And so it gives you a little bit of history, but we love our plant-derived minerals. We mix the plant-derived minerals in a lot of our solutions, like herbal rainforest, like Ultimate Classic, like the Osteo FXs, the Beyond Tangy Tangerines. They all have our minerals in them as a base. And so it's what really starts our company. It's the background of our company and what makes us unique compared to all the other ones.
Well, and I love that organic part of it, because a lot of people are looking for organic and they want to do everything organic, certified. So, and organic, basically it means that there's less chemical interaction or contact with the product, right? Or what does organic mean to you,
Well,
or related to this process?
related to this process, organic to me means in a lot of farming, there is a use of herbicides and pesticides and fertilizers, and other than from natural sources. And what organic means is that depending on which organization does it, they test the soil, they test the product, looking for these herbicides, pesticides, and chemicals that really shouldn't be in there. If they're in there, you're out of luck. Uh, you know, and so the organization that we're with is one of the more stricter ones. It's the international organic certification, and they actually test the products looking for those herbicides and pesticides. And so let's say in this case, there can't be anybody higher than us. But let's say there was a farmer that was growing crops above our trace minerals, and they were using herbicides and pesticides, and the water that he watered his fields came down into our minerals. It would contaminate our minerals and we wouldn't be certified organic. But we're kind of the top of the hill guys out there in Utah, and so we don't have that problem, and we're very proud of that.
That's fantastic, because I have a lot of people want to know, how do you know that, you know, the product is safe in the fact of being organic or not organic. Now, you had mentioned drinking young diamonds, folks. When I think diamonds, I don't think of absorbability. So Richard, talk about the absorbability of the plant-derived minerals, if you would.
So when you have fulvic acid, and what that basically does is that we take the humic shale, which is basically shale, and we soak it just like if you were to make sun tea. And we control the biometric pressure, we control the temperature and the time. And in that, if you know anything about osmosis, that's where you have something that is a low concentration, and then there's a membrane, and then there's a high concentration. And you know, over a given period of time with that membrane, they'll equalize. And so that's literally what we do when we make the minerals. We put them in purified water that goes through reverse osmosis and whatnot. So we get rid of all the contaminants before it goes into these big drums, and we soak the humic shale in it, and the fulvic acid comes out of the humic shale and goes into the plant-derived minerals. Well, one of the things about fulvic acid is that because of its magnetic charges, typically only 2 or 3 molecules attach in clusters, where if you work with crystals or salts, there can be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of molecules or atoms bonded together that will make these what I call clusters. And if you think about it, a cell is kind of like a wiffle ball. It has areas of ports where things can go in and out the cell. But if this cluster is bigger than the entry zone, then it can't get in. Your body has to break it down to do this. But we find with the humic shale and the fulvic acid that these clusters are so small, they literally can go through any cell in your body. In fact, the best way that I prove this, and when I show kids in classes in this, and it's during the summer, I find someone that's got a sunburn on the back of their hand. And we put plant-derived minerals on one hand, and we don't put it on the other. And then the next day we meet, we compare the two, and we find out that where the plant-derived minerals were, it soaked into the skin, into those live cells that are 5 or 6 layers down, and they instantly start healing the situation because it has the minerals to do that, along with all the enzymes in your body, and it's able to heal your skin. Well, the same thing works when you drink it. It gets into your bloodstream, goes through your digestive tract without a problem, goes into your bloodstream, and everywhere your blood goes, the plant-derived minerals will go into those cells, and you get the benefits of that. So compared to other things like sea salt or other products or other humic shale deposits that don't have the amount of fulvic acid that ours do, or other forms, we just get better absorption because of that. And it's up to 98%. A lot of people say 98%. We usually don't say that because it all depends on how healthy your gut is. If you don't have a healthy gut, and I'm sure you've had Joanne on this call, but if you don't have a healthy gut, you don't absorb anything. And so just a little side note, people always ask what I recommend everyone. Usually the first month I always recommend, or 2, I always recommend the Healthy Digestive Pack, because I want to get their gut healthy, and then they start absorbing everything and they see better results no matter what we do 3 and 4 months down the line. And I always try to remind them that if it took them 30 years to get bad, giving us 3 months to get them start to get better is not really a long time factor.
No, it really isn't. As you think about it, it took them decades of decline to get to where they're at. And then to expect there to be, instant results is a little bit unrealistic. But with that being said, there's a lot of people that within weeks are feeling difference.
I find the people that are healthier and are in pretty good shape, nutrition-wise within their body, they don't see improvements nearly as fast. But when people are massively deficient in their plant-derived minerals, once they start taking it, they see turnaround fairly quickly. And I've heard days, I've heard weeks, I've heard months. And so we've seen those benefits. I have people that really don't think it's doing them any much good, and then so they get off of it. All of a sudden they start to feel crummy and they can't figure out why. And I go, did you go off the product? And they go, yeah, but I didn't really see any difference when I was on it. And I go, but when you went off it, what happened? That's because your body went back to the old ways. And so there's 9 out of 10 people will usually see responses within 3 months.
One thing that I realized is I didn't realize how bad off I really was until I started feeling good. And then there was times where I would slack off, and after a few weeks or a month of slacking off, I'm like, oh, why am I aching again? And then I realized, well, I backed off or stopped taking my glucogel. which is the foundation of helping to support connective tissue, which when you've got connective tissue breakdown, just because the pain went away doesn't mean you finished the process of supporting that tissue to the point of no longer needing the extra support, right?
Absolutely. Kind of going back to your first question, you asked what products we first came out with. So once we had this base product and we knew what we had, we knew that we could add things to it to reach Doc's goal of 90 essential nutrients. Because when he had his practice back in the 80s, he literally had you taking 40 or 50 pills a day to get everything, because there wasn't everything all in one bottle or two bottles or three bottles. And so that's when we started to play around with the Ultimate Classic by adding the 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, the plant-derived minerals, and then fortifying it with additional minerals and then some antioxidants. And back in those days, I go, well, Doc, how do you want it to taste like? And he goes, taste's not important, because if people need it, they'll take it. And that was his philosophy. Well, we kind of learned that, kind of taste is kind of important, and we work on that, but we really haven't added any flavoring, so to speak, to the Ultimate Classic. But I always tried to take the best absorbing nutrients, and we mixed it all together, and we tried to make it, and all that would happen is when we bottled it, the bottles would explode, because certain nutrients just don't work well with, they're not friendly with their friends. They just don't work well together. And so we had to find combinations of like calcium, tricalcium phosphate, and ascorbic acid in various different forms to mix together so that when we stabilized it and then packaged it, it would last without having it. And so if you if you enjoy cooking, and you had a cake mix and it had 20 different ingredients in it, and every once in a while you have a batch that goes crazy on you. Well, it's the same thing, but you got to remember there's over 120 ingredients in Classic. And so we have a 5 to 10 times greater chance of something going haywire. So trial and error, we were able to make that. Doc wanted something that helped people with their colon and regular bowel movement. So we came up with the herbal rainforest. We came out with a calcium supplement. And the only thing that we didn't try to put in the Classic was essential fatty acids. And the main reason for that is that we were going to use fish oil. We believed in fish oil. And the more, even people in my generation remember drinking cod liver oil when we were young. And that wasn't one of the things that we thought was a wonderful flavor. And so we decided that we wanted to improve the shelf life on it, let it last longer. And so we mixed the cod liver oil with flaxseed and borage oil in a nitrogen atmosphere and put it in a soft gel that was the oxygen was not able to penetrate the soft gel. And we came out with EFAs. And so from then, Doc started to look at the formula and goes, this is what I used to give pigs when they had problems in their feed, more or less, so that they'd be healthy. And so he goes, why don't we name our first pack the Pig Pack? And so I was kind of going, oh, okay, we'll go ahead and do that. And that's when we came up with the Pig Pack, adding a little bit of glucogel to that formula as well. And you were talking about glucogel. And the way that I kind of explain it is the gelatin, if you have a screen window and you see those screens, they have all sorts of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little holes in them. The gelatin is like the screen. The glucosamine and strontium and other nutrients is what fills the holes in the screen to give you a strong connective tissue or good bone support with calcium and magnesium and potassium in those. And if you think about it that way, that's how glucogel came apart. And so by putting the minerals, the Tangy Tangerine, the EFAs, and the glucogel, that's how Pig Pack came about.
Well, I started out on the Pig Pack Plus, Richard.
That was a few years later.
And I still take those products today. In addition to the powders, I like to do 1 dose of the Ultimate Tangy Tangerine liquid, a dose of the OsteoFX liquid, the plant-derived minerals liquid, my glucogel, my EFAs, and then I also take the powdered Tangy Tangerine. I like the 2.5, which I would like you to talk about a little bit, and the powdered OsteoFX and the powdered collagen. And I mix those all together and drink that throughout the day. So I love the fact that I can easily nutrify my body continually. And I found that's what has gotten me to be able to be optimal where I'm at today. Because I don't ever want to go back to feeling bad, because I was way too young to feel that old, way too young. So tell us a little bit about the 2.5 version of the Tangy Tangerine, beyond Tangy Tangerine powders.
So all the BTT powders came about several years ago. Steve started to ship more to Australia and New Zealand and other countries like that, and it was expensive to ship liquid bottles because they're about 2.5 pounds a bottle, and we had to figure out a more economical way. And so he kind of tossed the monkey on my back and said, create a way where we can have the 90 essential nutrients without water. And so uh, trying to make a powder that was absorbable had its own challenges. And I was at a food convention, and I saw a freeze dry company showing how they were making these powders by spinning all the moisture out, but controlling the temperature. And I go, does it have to be a food, or can I give you a liquid slurry and you can spin the moisture out to in the 80s or low 90s and have it more or less as a powder? And they go, well, I don't see why we can't. Don't you want to just mix the powders in the first place? And I says, we don't get the absorption, we don't get the mixture really mixed throughout. If we had a liquid slurry and you spun all the moisture out, I would have the consistency between the first batch and the 31st batch to be the same. And that was important. And so he said, fine, we'll give it a try. And we did it. And that particular company really didn't want our business because it kind of gummed up their machine. So I found a company that was interested in doing our business with us. And that's when I came out with the 1.0 version. Now, everyone thinks, well, you have a great idea. This popped out. This took us almost 4 years to develop. And so it took a while. And then once we had the base, the blue lid style, that's when we started to tweak it. And we came out with the 2.0 and the 2.5. 2.5 came about because of COVID. 2.5 came out because the people that were making 2.0 struggled at keeping all the raw materials in stock to keep us going in 2.0. So we found a second manufacturer, and he used a slightly different vegetable blend and came out with the 2.5 version. And one of the other disadvantages of COVID is Brunswick Lab went belly up. They went out of business, and they were the companies that taught us about ORAC score, oxygen radical absorption capacity, if you don't know what that means. And it basically allows us to compare apples and oranges as far as its ability to be a good antioxidant or absorb free radicals. And not only apples to oranges, but one product versus another product. And we found another manufacturer. We had them test the ORAC value, and the 2.5 came out with a huge number. So did 2.0. They're pretty much about the same. 2.0 is a little bit less and whatnot. And the 2.5 tablets and the 2.0 tablets were almost exactly the same. So once the manufacturers stabilized and were able to get the product consistent, it didn't make sense to carry 2.5 tablets and 2.0. So that's why we have 2.0 tablets, 2.0 powder, and 2.5 powder still. And yes, there's another batch. There's a 3.0 in the process of being developed now that I think we'll have out. I hate quoting times because manufacturers never honor those times. Within the next 6 months to a year or less.
Fantastic. So what are we looking at as far as the 3.0 offers that's different than the 2.0 or the 2.5?
I'm not allowed to talk about that. You'll have to get Steve Wallach on the line to get him to do it, and good luck. The one that's really good is Michelle. She likes to talk.
All right. Well, I will
I mean,
definitely.
I wasn't even allowed to say strawberry for 6 months.
Oh, well, that pollen burst strawberry acai is really, really good. Really
You
good.
know, Steve and Michelle kind of have a sweet tooth, and I have more of a European flavor. So I always thought our powders were way too sweet, and that's just me. But they have the final say on the flavor and whatnot, and so I didn't win those arguments. But I think enough people made a comment that stuff is too sweet that they came out with the strawberry new pollen burst, and they did not make it sweet. They kind of made it a tart strawberry. And I will tell you, probably 3.0 will be close to that same type version where it won't taste nearly as sweet. And hopefully we'll come out with an osteo on it, because to me, osteo is too sweet too.
Yes. Well, my solution for when people say something's too sweet, just add more water.
There is, but I'll teach you. You probably knew this in cooking. If you have something too sweet, you add something bitter to it, and bitter cancels sweet. Well, you could do the same thing in your when you mix any of these products in orange juice or whatnot. Put something in it's a little bit bitter if you think it's too sweet, and they'll cancel each other out.
So I do a splash of plant-derived minerals, and that helps tone the sweetness down.
Well, that's astringent. Do you know what astringent means? It makes you pucker.
Yep. I know
Yeah.
astringent, sure. So yeah, great.
One doubts me, open up a mineral cap, put a little bit of the trace minerals that are on the mineral cap on your finger and put it straight on your tongue. And you'll find out what it's like, because we don't give anybody the 38 milligram solution for human consumption. We do in the plant fertilizer, we do, but not for human consumption. And it will just, your eyes will open up if you ever taste the 38.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. Now, so I can take the EFAs and I can just chew them up.
Yeah,
And
you will.
we have a lot of people that's what they do when they have a hard time swallowing larger pills is you put it in your mouth, you start chewing it up, you keep chewing until it's gone.
The other thing
And
that I want to mention really quick, people always ask, why don't we make the soft gel out of vegetable glycine versus see, AJ goes, all right, he's answering a question I want to know. The vegetable glycine isn't nearly as dense, and it's porous, and oxygen will go through into the product and start oxidizing the fish oil. And so I've always preferred the gelatin form for that purpose. And I basically tell people, we're Youngevity people here, but we try to help our customers first. I say, if you just want to get flaxseed oil, that's still omega-3, and it's still good for your body, and there's those options. But as long as Youngevity is Youngevity, they want to supply a product that's going to be safe in their minds to you, and we'll probably stick with the bovine, which means beef, gelatin. And when on the product you see gelatin and water, that's exactly what it is. It's bovine gelatin. We don't have any porcine, which is pork.
perfect. And there's a lot of people that appreciate that for preference, whether it's personal preference or religious preference. I love the fact that the collagen products don't include that porcine. So, and you had mentioned just omega-3, which we have the pollen burst Prohoba Omega, which is a focus on omega-3,
All fish oil.
all fish oils. So that's something else that Youngevity offers that folks, all of these things that we're mentioning can be found on your distributor's website. So if somebody shared this program with you, make sure that you get back with them and say, hey, what is your preference for me to order? Now, if there was nobody that referred you to this program and you found it on your own, please go to DailywithDoc.com. We do have a store there with all the products that are being mentioned here. And if you're not working with a coach already, we do have a team of coaches that can be reached through the contact option on our website, or even sign up for our email list. And in the sign up, there is a place where you can put a note and let us know that you would like a consultation or have a coach work with you to make sure that you are getting exactly what your body needs to reach your health goals. So, Richard, another question that is coming up is, how do we know how to, for lack of a better word, dose per weight? What products are best per weight rather than just as a single serving per day?
It's more or less our multivitamins and our essential fatty acids. The Doc's 90 core is where I like to have people dose by weight. And it goes in both directions too. So let's say you're 100 pounds and we say a fluent ounce or 1 to 2 scoops, depending on which BTT you're taking. It's still the same amount weight wise. It's just different size scoops, in case you've never figured that one out. But if you're 50 pounds, you're a youth, you're a child, you would take a half an ounce or half a scoop, and it still works well. If you weigh 200 pounds, you can go the other direction. But when I work with my customers and I coach my team members, I usually talk to them about two things. The first one is on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you think you're at? One being I'm fine, and two meaning cut off my leg and replace it, please. And if they're in the 10 or 9 or 8 range, then we start talking about heavy dosing. But I also ask them what their financial situation is, because I don't want Youngevity to be a financial burden. And because of the quality of our products, they're not the cheapest products on the market. And so they will see results if they just do a single dose. It may take longer, but they will see results. But I can speed it up. Or if they're a child, they can take a lesser dose. If everyone always asks, what should I take? What should I give my 10-year-old? And I go, the same thing you're taking. It's the same male and female anatomy. We can go in those directions. Now, with the kids, I look at Smart FX, because that particular EFA product is a much smaller soft gel. And then if that doesn't work, is still too big, then I cut it open and squeeze it out. And I keep a very straight face when they eat, because kids learn that something doesn't taste good by the reaction. They don't know the difference when they're really young. I remember when Steve and Michelle had Jonathan, who's, my word, he might be getting close to 30 now. He had it from the literally day he started the bottle. He started to get classic in his bottled milk, and he doesn't know it tastes bad compared to everybody else. He thinks it tastes good. And if you ask Michelle, she still drinks the liquids, and all her kids drink the liquids. They don't have the powders in the house. That's just their preference, because that's what they got used to. But those are the things I primarily. Now, on the other side, things I never tell people to increase their dose is the herbal lot. No, good herbs tinctures. That was a company that we acquired that was designed. The products were designed for healthcare practitioners, and they are already strong. And so I encourage everyone to follow the instructions on those. Don't think if a teaspoon's good, 3 tablespoons is better, because you're going to have a side effect that I don't want you to have. So that's one where I'll tell you to stay with the directions on the bottle, no matter what your body weight is.
Well, and you mentioned the Good Herbs line, which as an herbalist, I was formulating tinctures for a functional nutrition, functional medicine practitioner. So when I found Youngevity, got on the products, then started looking around and found the Good Herbs tinctures, I was like, oh, yes. I was so excited because they already had done the work, and I tested them out, and they're wonderful.
And I've been working with that particular manufacturer now for 26 years. So
Wow.
I know their practices and whatnot. I didn't know they were doing the tinctures for Good Herbs prior to acquiring. But then once we acquired it, he turned around and called me and says, I hear you bought me. And I kind of laughed at him, and I go, what's going on? He goes, well, I make the Good Herb stuff. And so we chuckled about that and looked at the formulas and whatnot, and go from there. The other thing I'll mention is that tinctures are a lot like our plant-derived minerals. They will sometimes, some batches will come out darker than the other. And as you know, when you make tinctures, even though you use the exact same standardized herbs to soak in the alcohol, sometimes the coloring of the plant comes out a little more or a little less. So they will vary a little bit in shading, but I can pretty much guarantee you the amount of herbs that are made with the tincture and the soaking process is exactly the same every single time. And we
Yeah,
test for heavy metals and things like that in every one, but we only buy certified organic herbs in the first place.
perfect. I love it. I love it. And folks, if you haven't checked out the tinctures, please do so. Youngevity offers a whole line of tinctures, and you can just read right there on the bottle and give you an idea of what it is for. And you do it to what is on the bottle as far as the dosing goes. It does not take a lot, but you get some great results when added to the 90 essential nutrients. So, herbs are great, but they don't include the whole 90 essential nutrients that the body needs.
So probably 20 years ago, I was doing a lot more lectures in person. We were all having more home meetings and whatnot. And I came out with this fabric thing, and Steve and Michelle was there, and they liked the idea. But what it was is I had this great big piece of fabric, and I had a great big yellow dot in the middle of it. And in the middle of that yellow dot, I had 90 essential nutrients, and I listed out the 3 products that were the most important with that. And then I had a whole bunch of petals, and I had embroidered on the petals all the little side products we had with Youngevity, Cardio FX, Prost FX, Balance FX, all those products that I kind of named because it was easier for me to explain what it was when I named them that way. And we all talked about having the 90 essential nutrients as the core, but you can highlight if you have joint issues, you can add Osteo FX, and you can add the glucogel, and we would put those petals in the flower, and it would look like a sunflower. And now the corporation has picked it up, and other people have picked it up, and they all use the sunflower. But if you kind of think about it, you don't have to have all the petals. You just, if when you coach and they say, these are my primary concerns, and you picked on it. Now with me, it's almost always the healthy start pack. So it would be Flora FX and ultimate enzymes or pre and probiotics or something like that would be the petals that I would start them on. And then we would add, and we can mix and match to make that. But always, always, always in the center of that flower is the 90 essential nutrients that everyone needs.
Well, and I'm one of those that just love the sunflower. As you can tell, I've got sunflowers
Oh,
all around me. Did you see them?
oh, I see them. Okay. All right. On your
Yep.
fingernails. Now, do you have the name of the products inside each leaf?
Well, my artist is really, really good, and if I asked her to, she'd probably figure out how to do it. But
But then you would have cheat
I
notes.
have
You could sit there and hold up your hand and go, oh, I need this, this, and this.
just like in college with those tests, or sorry, high school. Never cheated in college. So we have another question. Actually, before I ask this next question, you had mentioned a product that came up this past week, wanting to know what do we have now that would be a sufficient substitute, and that's the Balance FX.
So A, B, C, good, better, best. A would be women's hormonal balance. And then C would be women's hormone support tincture.
Okay.
That would be the AB on it. So let's talk a few seconds before we get to the next question. Why do we discontinue a product? So one of the situations that happened with COVID the most is that a manufacturer would say a minimum order is 50,000 capsules. Well, 50,000 capsules divided by 60 is a little over 1,000 bottles, right? And Youngevity can sell 1,000 bottles fairly quickly. Well, a lot of that changes. The minimum tablet order now is usually 250,000. And so what happened was on our products that were not big sellers, we were getting too close to the expiration date too consistently because we just, as distributors representing the company, didn't sell it enough. And believe it or not, good herbs almost disappeared. I had to fight to keep it because I believe so much in the good herbs to the point I said that if they had any expired product, I'd buy it back. And so there's no way Youngevity would lose money. And I think Steve and Michelle realized that it was that important to me. I worked with the manufacturers so we can make smaller batches and things like that, and we were able to keep the whole line. But products like Balance FX or OPCT, which is in a little bit of jeopardy, or what's the other one under the original one? Grapeseed extract. One of those is that RTQ sells so much that those are no longer selling that well. And when Youngevity has to make 8,000 bottles, and in 2 years we only sell 1,000, and that last year, we put it on post off, and if it gets close to that shelf life, we throw it away. And that's the only reason why we get rid of a product.
All right, good to know. So folks, if you've got a product, especially those of you that are coaches or distributors within Youngevity, if you have a product that you absolutely love, make sure you get people educated about the product so that they know the benefits that it potentially has within the body so that we can keep those products going through the Youngevity product line. Yeah, I hate it whenever I don't like the word hate, sorry. It's concerning whenever we have great products that are not being sold just because people are just not aware of them or aware of the benefits. So I love being able to share more about products as well. So maybe in the future, you can come on and share some product stuff with us.
Well, I would tell everyone to go in the back office and look at I-26. It was an acquisition that we had. If you have people that have digestion problems, because it kills the bad bacteria in your gut, but it doesn't harm the good bacteria. And if you think about it, if I can get rid of the bad and add more good to it, my gut's going to be healthier. If your gut's healthier, your immune system's stronger. And so it's a catalyst on how it goes. And so that's a hidden one that I always like people to take a look at.
Absolutely. Doc is loving the I-26, especially the chewables. The French vanilla is his favorite. So he's started, once I introduced that to him, he's like, oh, these taste like vanilla ice cream. How many can I have? So yeah, we had to put a limit. That's it. I told him 3, and you don't eat them close to your eggs. So we'll have them at snack time or sometime that you're not eating your eggs, because we don't want those antibodies to cancel each other out. So the next question, Richard, is can you explain how the blood sugar pack was derived?
So if you just think about that sunflower that's over your shoulder, it was the Healthy Start Pack plus Sweeties. And Sweeties is a blend of cinnamon, chromium, and vanadium in a form that will help a type 2 diabetic control their blood sugars more efficiently. Does it absolutely work for everybody? I'm going to say no. But we've had great success with it. And so we just took the Healthy Start Pack and we added the Sweeties to it, and it became the Healthy Blood Sugar Pack, just like the Healthy Digestive Pack is with the enzymes in the flora, and the Healthy Bone and Joint is with the CM cream and the glucogel, and so on and so forth with all the packs. But you got to remember, we have the core of everything in there, 90 essential nutrients. I want to toss one thing into your coaches. In my success, and that's what I can only compare to, I find it really important to, when I coach people and they place their initial order, I always are in contact with them when they receive their product. My trick is that I tell them to have a Sharpie and call me with the product. We go over how much to take, and I tell them to write it on the lid. And if they have a black lid, they have to have a white Sharpie, because I don't want to write black on black. And then if they have trouble, remember, they just keep the old cap and screw it on the new cap, and away we go. I always talk to them 3 weeks after taking it to see how they feel and what they think, or sooner. But the main reason for that is I go, I always want to try to save you money. And if we can go on auto ship, It will save you money, and I try to get them on auto ship and move it up where I can get 2 quick starts out of the deal, to be honest with you guys. And then I always call them 6 weeks later from when they started the product or halfway through their second month. And there again, start. And then is when we talk about the list I had them make originally of how they feel and what they'd like to see improve. And we go over that list to see how they feel after 2 months of taking the product. And then we do that. I think developing that relationship with your group develops consistency and friendship. And there's some products that we don't carry, and I know it will be beneficial to them. Do I have a problem telling them about the product? No, because I don't want to sound like on a soapbox with Youngevity products. Doc would probably hit me in the head for saying that. But in all honesty, if I can make them feel better, I know they'll be around with me. And I have customers who've been with me since day one. So it's a system that works. But if you just coach them, they get the products, and you never call them again, you can bring on some of the corporate people, and they will tell you, because they have a department in Youngevity. If someone orders but never reorders, they call them and ask them why. I don't know if you realize that. And the number one meaning is, I never heard from them, and I've never opened the bottle. It's just on my shelf. And so we got to get them to open the bottle and try it, because I guarantee if it sits on their shelf, they won't get the results.
That's right. And just an example of what Richard is saying, you're right on the lid. I wrote too big that this time, but like with food. So you can put on there 1-3 times a day with food. If it's something that, like the essential fatty acids, they're fat soluble vitamin that do best when I have other fats taken with them. So I do that all the time. I'm coaching. I say, as soon as you get your box, find a Sharpie marker. We're going to go through each and every product. You can write right on the lid. So it's not some paper that has to be found later to try to figure out what and how to take it. So that's a great recommendation. Thank you so much for sharing that. We have another question wanting to know, is there any prospect of having additional packs created with just the liquids?
So that's a Steve Wallach question. And I would say it's possible. If you think about it, if they just get the pig pack or they just get the classic 90 and they add something to it, the difference between a pack that we create in that way and you just add it might be $1 difference, or maybe $1.50 difference. And so I think there's some ways. Would I like to see something that was like a Tangy Tangerine, EFA being the Prohoba version, just to have a simple combination that was the lowest price point that we could get, and making that a pack? I would love to see that. But with the things are going up, and prices these days are absolutely crazy. And Steve is trying to hold back from raising prices, but it's been really hard lately. I'll give you an example so everyone can kind of understand. We bring in our gelatin from Argentina because Argentina does not give their cattle any steroids or hormones, and they're grass fed. And so it kind of falls within our guidelines. So that product from them increased almost double during COVID. Then there's shipping it from Argentina to here. That price has gone up 8 times what it was originally. And so what used to cost us, let's just say $3 a pound, now costs us $12 a pound. And so when you do that, that's when it gets to be the challenge. But Steve Wallach and his team has done an excellent job maintaining the price and maintaining the quality to the best of our ability.
All right. And I appreciate that. I know, compared to what so many things and the price going up, and the few times that Youngevity has had to raise the prices on anything is just so much less than what the regular economy is out there. So folks, you are getting quality, and quality is not cheap at all. So we're coming up to the end of our time, but I have one more question. It goes back to per weight. Now, there's two products that are specifically being asked about, CalMag and Stay Balanced. Would those increase by weight or on the bottle? Are you familiar with those two products? I know there's a lot.
CalMag, yes. Stay
So
is an
yeah,
herbal product, and I would say no. But
okay.
you should bring Dr. Laura Dennison on and ask her, or I'll send an email and then you can update the people in a couple of days. But I'm going to say CalMag definitely. If you get soft stool, it's because of the magnesium, and you might have to back up a little bit. But that would be the only thing with that particular product. CalMag is a great product. All the Stay Natural products are basically herb based. And to me, herb's a plant medicine and it's not a nutrient. And so you have to be a little more careful on how much of that you digest.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And yes, Dr. Laura Dennison is one of our scheduled guests coming up. So I'm excited to bring her on and learn more about the Stay Natural line and how herbs can be synergistically used with the 90 essential nutrients. Not take their place, but used in conjunction with them. Well, Richard, thank you so much for coming on and having such an informative hour with us. We greatly appreciate you. You have been working hard behind the scenes. I don't think that you get the credit that you deserve in what we now have that we are able to take and put to use within our bodies. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And, known as Dr. Dirt, you are amazing and such a wealth of knowledge. So thank you for sharing that with us today.
You'll all be healthy and happy. That's the main thing.
Yes, healthy and happy. Thank you. And folks, you have been tuning into Daily with Doc. Thank you so much for joining us here today on our program. Again, get back with the person that shared this program with you. If there is nobody to thank, go to dailywithdoc.com and you can reach out to us through that contact option. You've got a store if you want to just shop on your own, or we do have a call team that is standing by to help those who are not working with somebody already at 855-949-3377. That's 855-949-3377. And I just want to do a shout out and a thank you to my team, and they can come on screen with me if they wish. We have Marilyn, who is doing some fabulous note taking for us. So if you're live with us here in the Zoom room at dailywithdoczoom.com from 12 to 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, you are able to take advantage of the notes that she shares with the content that is being shared within the program. So thank you, Marilyn, for doing that. We have also Sherry. Sherry is keeping an eye on the cameras, letting people in, and also helping watch the platforms as we are live streaming to multiple platforms. So I just want to say thank you, Sherry, for all of your help in doing that. And we have Albert way down in the South Africa, who is helping let people in also and watching the cameras, making sure that this is a safe place for everyone. And then I have my assistant to the executive production manager, AJ, who has made it possible for us to be able to stream throughout the world on so many different platforms, meeting you where you are at. So let us know that you are there. Send us a message, send us a comment, leave us some hearts, some loves, and make sure that you don't forget to subscribe to our channels. Our channels are Daily with Doc and also Critical Health News. So until next time, I will always be Becca Dukes, and I am honored to be able to bring you empowering information, giving tools for your toolbox to create that optimal health journey that you're searching for, and share with others the way that we work together as a community and build healthier families, healthier communities, healthier countries around the world is through sharing. So make sure that you share this information with somebody that you know and love. And if you would like to make it part of a way that you can get a thank you check for sharing, that's possible too. Get back with the person that shared this program with you. And again, if there's no one to thank, reach out to us here at DailywithDoc.com. Bye for now.